Who's really the best in class?
We'll find out
This week on Motoring 2003.
TSN's Motoring 2003 is brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil, oils fine-tuned for different engines, and Midas, Total Car Care. We do that.
Overlooking the Toronto Harbour and skyline, the Docks Entertainment Centre is called Canada's biggest playground for good reason. There is simply something for everybody. This past year, the Docks opened up a drive-in which sports the world's largest outdoor screen. Hello everybody, and once again this year, the gang here at the Docks, all car nuts I might add, have allowed us to use their facility to present our annual Car of the Year program. And this year, for the first time in 16 years, we're moving from a half hour to an hour. Now you saw them off the top of the program, but let me now introduce the two ladies who eventually will be taking the wraps off our overall Car of the Year for 2003. First, Lisa, who was the winner of this year's Swimsuit Canada competition, and the runner-up, Ruby. This year, all our nominees have been posted on the Motoring webpage, allowing viewers to cast their vote in each category, as well as selecting their overall Car of the Year. Now, viewers have also emailed us their Car of the Year pick, and the names of those who have matched Motoring's eventual winner today are now in that Motoring hat, and later we will select a winner. The big prize will be a day at the 2003 Automotive Journalists Association of Canada's Test Fest, where the keys will be available for every new 2004 car and truck. Joining me now, our man behind the wheel each week on Test Drive, Graham Fletcher, who I might add is wearing the tuxedo that his father wore at his wedding in 1946. But I'm sure he looked better.
I'm sure he did too.
All right, Graham, first of all, let's talk about this year's crop of containers. Your thoughts, first of all.
Well, it's been a bumpy year, but you'll notice that there's a lot more imports this year than there is domestics. And it's not because we favor the import brands, but rather the domestic manufacturers. They seem to have taken a year off. Now, next year is going to be a very different kettle of fish because GM has got a mitt full of product. Now, I've been treated to a couple of sneak previews, and I can promise you they are good.
Bob Lutz is doing some good things.
Absolutely.
All right, what makes our crop eligible?
It's very simple. In order to qualify for our Car of the Year, the vehicle has got to be new, and that doesn't just mean a new nameplate or a facelift, it's got to be something significant. And so to our first category. Now this one is growing primarily because there's more discretionary income available, and that's for sports cars. When it comes to BMW, anything with an M in front of its model designation is worth getting worked up about, and the M3 convertible is no exception. Here it's the brawny engine that gets you all worked up. Simply it's one of the best inline sixes in the world. A full quotient of technology yields some serious numbers. 333 horsepower and 262 pounds-feet of torque. Now match this with a fully automated sequential manual gearbox which includes steering wheel mounted paddle shifters, a sophisticated suspension and superb brakes, and you have the latest M3. Being able to drop the top adds the icing to a tasty cake. The item that impresses about the SL500 is not so much its flashy appearance and interior opulence, but more the level of technology packed beneath its sensuous lines. In base 4, the 5-litre V8 pumps out 302 horses and 339 pounds-feet of torque, which is good enough to blast the SL500 to 100 kilometers an hour in 6.5 seconds. Move up to the SL55 and this number drops to an earth-shattering 4.7 seconds. Factor in a superb suspension, precise steering, a strong brake-by-wire system to scrub off the excess speed, and well, you have a landlocked rocket of the first order. When it debuted in 1970, the Datsun 240Z, as it was known in those days, was dubbed by many as the first affordable exotic. Simply stated, the new car wraps the original's charms in a thoroughly modern package. Crank the engine to life and the 350Z is as fast as its appearance suggests. With 287 horses, the engine powers the Z-Car to 100k in 6.3 seconds, and with an exhaust note commensurate with its ability. It also has the dynamic wherewithal to accommodate the most enthusiastic driving style. Where the 350 fails to impress is the interior finish. The materials are just not the equal of the rest of the car, and for that, it's left lacking.
Before we announce our winner, let's check out the results on the webpage. And there you see it, the Nissan 350Z, a runaway winner. And Graham, maybe a deserving one, although I don't think you agree with me on this one.
I do not, Brad. As far as I'm concerned, the car is incomplete. Now, whilst it's got a wonderful engine and superb dynamics, a rubber antenna on the fender, give me a break. It should be embedded in the glass. And as for the interior, it looks like it belongs in a Sentra and not in a $50,000 sports car. And so for that reason, I picked the Mercedes-Benz SL500, but in particular the AMG version, the SL55. With 469 horsepower, it is a truly awesome automobile. Mind you, it also comes with an awesome price, $165,000. On that note, let's check out the best new economy car. The SX 2.0 officially replaces the Neon as Dodge's entry-level automobile. To kick things off in the right direction, the SX gets a reworked front end with a more pronounced set of crosshairs in the grille. This simple move finally brands the car as a Dodge. Beneath the hood, a 2-litre 4 churns away, firing its 132 ponies through a choice of manual or 4-speed automatic transmissions. Factor in the fully independent suspension, strong brakes and precise steering, and you have an attractive package. Best of all is the significantly upgraded SRT4. It promises to add some much-needed spice to the lineup. After an aborted run at the Canadian market a few years ago, Mitsubishi is back, and this time they mean business. Leading the charge is the 120 horsepower Lancer ES. While its powertrain only earns an acceptable rating, the Lancer is not without its charms. When pushed, it tracks a true line with understeer only entering the fray at the limits. Considering the Lancer's station in life, the ride and handling are exemplary. Likewise, the quality of the interior fit and finish and the amount of room available, considering the compact dimensions, is wonderful. In short, the Lancer is a welcome addition to Canada. Having sold more than 25 million units since its introduction in the 1960s, the Corolla should be considered the world's favourite car. The 9th generation of this stalwart will continue the trend. Simply, the Corolla is larger in all key areas, offers a better ride quality than any of its competition, and is powered by one of the best 4-cylinder engines offered. Indeed, it's hard to fault the Corolla from just about any standpoint. That said, I will. Some of the interior materials are not up to Toyota's high standards, which shows where the Corolla's extremely competitive pricing came from. To win the economy car of the year, the winner must be affordable to buy, affordable to own, and if possible have a great resale value. The winner comes up trumps in all cases, as both the web vote and mine were cast in favour of the Toyota Corolla.
Off the top of the show, Graham talked about imported cars. Well, what does that mean anymore? I mean, Ford owns Land Rover and Aston Martin, Jaguar and Volvo, and a big chunk of Mazda. General Motors owns Daewoo and Saab, and a big chunk of Fiat, Subaru, Isuzu, and Suzuki. Chrysler got bought out by Daimler-Benz, and now they own a big chunk of Mitsubishi, and they got working arrangements with Hyundai. The two most iconic brands in Britain, Bentley and Rolls-Royce, well, they're now owned by Volkswagen and BMW. What was World War II all about anyway? Now, the country of origin's not going to help you. You got BMWs built in South Carolina, Hondas built in Ohio and Ontario. You got Fords, Chevys, and Nissans built in Mexico. And next year, Pontiac's going to import a car to the States that's built in Australia. You know, there's a lot of talk about globalization in the world economy, but where is it happening? For better or worse, in the car industry.
So what happens when you want to carry a bunch of extra stuff without using the bed? Not a problem. Simply fold. It's locked up. Simply fold the seat forward just like that, and everything's a nice flat floor. What? Jolly good. We'll get out and try that again, shall we? I'll bet you that bum uses that.
We've got a lot more to come as Ruby and Lisa stand by to reveal Motoring's Car of the Year. And we'll find out which vehicle you, our viewers, have selected on the webpage. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Underneath that cover is motoring selection for the best car or truck for 2003. And it won't be long before Lisa and Ruby will be pulling the wraps off our eventual winner. Let's now join Graham for our next category.
You know, at one time, 200 plus horsepower was considered Corvette-like. It's now offered in a family sedan, and so to our three nominees. The Honda Accord has been regarded as one of the better family sedans for many years, and rightly so. Whether you're looking for comfort, performance, or a balanced blend of both, the Accord range has a model to suit. It has earned an enviable reputation for quality. Simply, its repertoire is rounded, with every facet being executed with meticulous precision. And so it is with the new car. The range covers the bases, counting a base 160 horsepower four-cylinder engine married to a manual gearbox, to the 240 horse V6 and its automatic transmission. The new Ion is a welcome replacement for the Saturn SL, as it is better in just about every area. The style is cleaner, the engine smoother, while the Roadman has taken a significant step forward thanks to a new platform. However, the one area that did not receive enough attention is the interior, as it is not the equal of the mechanical aspects. Inside, the appearance has a somewhat cobbled together look, and the steering wheel is too small. Aesthetics aside, the wheel size also affects precision, as it made me feel ham-fisted whenever a quick left-right-left maneuver was required. While the Mazda 626 was a competent car, it always took a back seat to the likes of the Toyota Camry. This all changes with the new Mazda 6. First, it gets a rock-solid platform, sophisticated suspension, and more than enough power. For the economy-minded, the four-cylinder engine in its 160 horsepower will do. If you want more, the 3-litre V6 ups the ante to 220 ponies. The Mazda 6 is also larger than any other Mazda save the old 929. This means plenty of space for 5 adults and a ton of trunk space. This little lot is then wrapped in a clean and uncluttered package. While the Accord was picked as a landslide winner by the web vote, we at Motoring had a slightly different idea. Our hands-down winner is the Mazda 6, and quite simply because it is the new benchmark in the family sedan category. And talking of families, let's check out another popular category with those very people, mid-sized SUVs. The Honda Pilot is based on the Acura MDX, meaning it shares many of the components but not the look. Apparently, the more utilitarian style and tougher feel is exactly what we folksier buyers want. Any way you cut it though, picking up the basics from Acura is a good thing. First, it brings a stronger body which supplies a solid base of operations for the suspension, something that allows the Pilot to deliver on both the ride and handling side of the equation. Throw in a 3.5-litre V6 that's good for 240 horses, a slick transmission and a full-time four-wheel drive system, and there is enough sport in the Pilot to justify the S in SUV. In the beginning, the 4Runner was little more than a pickup truck with a plastic cap and an extra row of seats. Today, it is as sophisticated as anything offered, and for the first time, a V8 engine is available. It also gets a very good all-wheel drive system, center and rear diff lockers, as well as a ton of electronics. The latter controls everything from the speed of your descent down a slippery hill to the dynamic stability control system and anti-lock brakes. It is also bigger and more opulent than ever before, meaning plenty of space and all the luxury one could want for. Talk big, and Volvo is not the first name to come to mind. However, the XC90 is just that. Inside there is ample space for 5 and the room needed to carry their stuff. Need to accommodate more passengers? No problem. You simply fold another 2 seats up and out of the trunk floor. You'll also find a good full-time four-wheel drive system and a choice of 2 turbocharged engines. The XC90 also strays from the SUV norm in that it comes with a full complement of Volvo safety, including a sophisticated rollover protection system that uses the dynamic stability control system to steer the vehicle out of trouble.
Well, the XC90 is without a doubt the newest nameplate in our nominees and our viewers' pick as top mid-size sport utility. But Graham, once again, we have to differ.
Absolutely, Brad. Whilst the XC90 would have been a good choice unto itself, primarily because of its safety, I picked the 4Runner. Where it used to be little more than a tarted-up truck, it is now an electronic sophisticate with a great all-wheel drive system, 2 good engines, and all of the utility this segment requires.
Okay, we've still got a lot more to come, including our overall car of the year for 2003. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
The law is clear. Do not drive on paved shoulder. The police ticketed 150 of these jerks in one incident near Toronto recently. I say, go for it, fellas. Throw the book at the shoulder stealers. This is Jim Kenzie for Motoring 90.
At the Docks Entertainment Center in downtown Toronto as Motoring's Car of the Year special continues. Ruby and Lisa are standing by to eventually pull the cover off our overall Car of the Year for 2003. And of course, we'll see who our viewers have selected through their votes on the Motoring webpage.
Having checked out the expensive sheet metal, it's now time to focus on something a little more affordable. And that's our 3 nominees for Best New Sports Car under $35,000. The highlight and heart of the Civic SIR is its 2-litre iVTEC engine, a power plant good for 160 horsepower and 132 pounds-feet of torque. While the engine features Honda's VTEC, the latest version ups the technology count by adding variable valve timing. The result is a run to 100 kilometers an hour in just 8 seconds. Add to that a stiffer platform and there is much less body flex and a good place for the suspension. This all means very little body roll and minimal understeer. The other highlight is the dash-mounted shifter for the manual box. While ungainly to the eye, it functions exceptionally well. The speed version of Mazda's Protege lives up to its name. A serious rework of the engine sees the addition of a Garrett T25 turbocharger. This blows 170 willing horsepower through a slick 5-speed manual transmission. Now this drops the 0 to 100 km/h acceleration time from leisurely to 7.3 seconds. Factor in the reworked suspension, better tyres and a loud-proud Kenwood audio package, and the Protege is one seriously slammed car. The advantage is that unlike its aftermarket loaded peers, everything that makes a difference is covered by the factory warranty, a bonus well beyond the speed's price premium. The thing that separates the Cooper S from the base Cooper is the addition of a supercharger. Not only does this bring the power the car cries out for, it does so without the usual lag between demand and the desired turn of speed. With 163 horsepower running through a 6-speed manual box, the Mini pulls with authority across the entire rev range. Indeed, a ton appears on the clock in a quick 7.3 seconds. Whether cruising around a back road or booting around the racetrack, the S's razor-sharp handling and spirited feel cranks up the cool quotient to the point where the car is all but irresistible. This was a very difficult category. The Mazda Protege Speed has got 170 horsepower, a usable back seat and a real trunk. However, as it's a limited edition, the heart won out over the head and I picked the Mini Cooper S.
The average transaction price for a new car in Canada? Well, it's about $30,000. Sound like a lot of money? Well, it's not. We've got some of the cheapest cars in the world right here. And you can thank the Canadian peso, the Canadian dollar for that. Car companies have no choice but to price to what the market will bear, cut their costs to the bone, and hope that at the end of the day there's something left to put in the piggy bank. I mean, if you look at British car prices, well, they pay about the same number of British pounds as we do Canadian dollars. And last I looked, the exchange rate was about 2.3. Why do they put up with it? Which means we end up with cars like $13,000 Cavaliers, we got $22,000 new Beetles and $50,000 Volvos. Well, some of those cars are up to $10,000 cheaper than they are in the United States. Only in Canada, you say? Darn right, and you should be happy about it.
It's now time to check out the category I affectionately refer to as our oddballs. Not oddballs because they're weird vehicles, but primarily because our 3 nominees, well, they defy traditional classification. When it debuted, the PT Cruiser had but one legitimate flaw. The power was marginal at best. The addition of the Cruiser Turbo effectively addresses this point, upping the output to 215 horsepower. Initially, the turbocharged engine feels similar to the base unit, acceptable but nothing special. However, once through 1500 RPM, the turbo flexes its muscle and brings a pleasing turn of speed. To handle the extra power, the suspension has been rejigged, and so there is less body roll and a crisper turn-in from the steering. At last, the real deal. Take a Jeep and bolster up its already famous off-road ability and you have the new Rubicon. As with the famed off-road trail, this is one tough mother that is very difficult to stop in its tracks. As well as some diamond plating cladding, it gets diff lockers front and rear, meaning that all four wheels drive at the same time, regardless of how slippery the going gets. A thoughtful switch on the dash allows the front diff to be toggled in and out, which allows the thing to turn, thank God. Throw in a large set of 31-inch tyres, which increases the ground clearance by about a half an inch, and you have one mean truck. After celebrating 30 years of excellent all-wheel drive, Subaru launched a throwback to the days of the long but hardly lamented Brat. This time around, it's a pickup come station wagon with an attitude. From the front bumper to the back of the rear door, it is essentially a legacy Outback. Behind that comes a short box and something Subaru calls the switchback. Dropping the rear seat flat allows a special panel in the back wall to be opened, which extends the effective length of the bed. Drop the tailgate and the optional bed extender, and the Baja will now accommodate an 8-foot 2x4 with little trouble. You know, the Baja would have made a wonderful winner of that category, except for its pricing strategy. That vehicle cries out for an entry-level model minus its oddball cladding. And so the winner, the Chrysler PT Cruiser. It was good when it debuted. It's even better with its turbocharged engine.
Obviously, we can't dissect somebody else's car that we're thinking of buying. But these are a few things we've showed you this week that you can check quickly and easily without a lot of tools and get yourself a good indication of whether or not you want to buy that used car. Next week, we're going to look at the inner workings of the cooling system and in particular the radiator. Until then, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 88.
We're back as Motoring's Car of the Year special continues from the Docks Entertainment Center in downtown Toronto. Here's Graham.
When the sun's shining, there's nothing nicer than driving al fresco. And so let's check out our nominees for our best new convertible. As with most Audi products, the A4 Cabrio is an understated piece that almost slips by unnoticed. But don't be fooled. Beneath that sturdy form lies a technically sweet automobile. Elsewhere, the new Cabrio brings plenty of creature comforts, as well as a powered top that gracefully drops in just 24 seconds. You also get seating for 4 adults and a realistic trunk. Smooth engine, electronic sophistication and comfortable interior aside, it is the chassis that makes the BMW Z4 a standout. Simply, the body is close to being 3 times stiffer than the Z3 it replaces, and it was regarded as better than average in this area. The resulting ride is all but devoid of cowl shake, which allows the suspension to do its thing without having to compensate for body flex. Indeed, the Z4's balance feel is predictable all the way to the ragged edge and almost without regard for road condition. The only question is the overall look. For some it's ugly, to my eye it's a pleasing departure from the Z3. Of all the cars that beg for a drop-top model, the new Beetle sits at the top of that wish list. At last, just such a beast is ready for mass consumption. Unlike its fixed-roof brethren, the convertible gets an upgraded version of VW's 2-litre 4 that is married to an equally new 6-speed automatic. Adding the needed stiffness to compensate for the lack of a roof delivers a solid platform with nary a hint of cowl shake. So having dropped the top, the one thing you notice is just how much you get noticed. It really is a delightful package that throws convention, quite literally, to the wind. As you can see from the web results, this was one of the easier categories, and we're inclined to agree that the best convertible of the year is indeed BMW Z4. It is, to coin a phrase, a real ripper. And now on to our nominees for Luxury Car of the Year. The Audi A4 is an attractive package that blends grace with pace. Turbocharging the 1.8-litre 4 produces 170 horsepower and, more importantly, 166 pounds-feet of torque anywhere over 1950 RPM. This brings a pleasing turn of speed over a broad range. To keep the car on the straight and narrow, the A4 also features the best all-wheel drive system offered. Even if only one wheel has got grip, you keep going. Add to that a dynamic stability control package, anti-lock brakes and a full slate of airbags, including a drop-down side curtain, and few cars have as much all-weather appeal as the A4. The CTS is the first showing of Cadillac's art and science philosophy, where a radical style is teamed with technical excellence, or at least that's the theory. While the CTS is a standout in the handling department, boasting one of the best stability control programs offered, it trips over its shoelaces in a couple of important areas. First, the power available from the V6 is mediocre at best, and second, the automatic transmission does not have a manumatic mode, which hurts. Mind you, if you consider this a starting point upon which to build, things are not as gloomy as they first appear. Having developed a world-class drivetrain, Nissan set about finding as many cars to drop it into as possible. The Infiniti G35 is arguably the best place to showcase its talents. The body is structurally sound, the handling poised without being harsh, and the steering nicely weighted and precise. Altogether, the DNA of a true sports car. The flip side sees the mechanical wherewithal teamed with an attractive and stylish body, while the cozy interior brings all the creature comforts demanded of a luxury car. To say this car could be Infiniti's saviour is not to overstate the significance of the G35. My choice as the clear-cut winner in this category was the Audi A4. However, the Chamber of Second Sober Thought saw the G35 come through and pick up the award. It was also a landslide winner, according to the popular web vote. And of course, Chevrolet's new people hauler, the Lumina APV. Until September, I'm Graham Fletcher for Motoring 89.
You know me and sport utility vehicles. They're not sporty and they're not useful. But you know, the market might be finally catching on, because the word you're going to hear a lot of over the next few years is crossover. These are vehicles that look like sport utility vehicles, big, tall, blocky styling, high seating position, lots of room for your gear, but based on minivan or passenger car platforms. So you get better ride, better handling, better performance, better economy, and better safety. Now, we used to have a name for vehicles like this, but we can't use it anymore. The marketing guys would slit their throats. It would be like having an Enron executive as your spokesperson. The word is, well, I feel like the guy in the Clarica ad. You know, the Clarity guy? They're called station wagons.
It's time to check out the compact SUV class. Now, before we get to the nominees, we've got to mention the Nissan Murano. It sort of bridges the gap between the compact and mid-size class. Why is it not a nominee? Quite simply, I haven't had any wheel time in that vehicle, and I'm not about to judge it against its peers without a full test drive. It is, however, the first entrant in next year's Car of the Year show. The Freelander has the look of a Land Rover, but with a twist. It sits noticeably lower than the rest of the range. It also rides on a fully independent McPherson strut suspension. The result is a remarkably civilised ride on-road, and when off-road, the suspension's long travel soaks up the lumpy stuff with suitable aplomb. Likewise, the steering and brakes also rate better than most in this category. The 2.5-litre V6 married to a 5-speed automatic transmission supplies the motivation. While 175 horses are not to be sneezed at, you do have to work them to get the performance desired, and then that brings some rather unseemly noise. Compared to the Sportage, the Sorento could not be more different, as every area of complaint has been effectively addressed. The looks are modern, there's plenty of room, a comfortable ride, and better handling than expected. As for power, the Sorento packs a 195 horsepower, 3.5-litre V6 under the hood, which equates to crisp response. Opting for the EX model also adds a good full-time four-wheel drive system, and unlike many, it has a low-range gear set for those tougher moments. The Sorento really does come together in a nice package that is attractively priced. The reworked Forester takes an already decent package and builds on it. The body is stiffer, there's more room, and there will be a turbocharged option soon. Naturally, all models are offered with all-wheel drive. However, there is a suggestion. Take the automatic transmission over the manual gearbox. Simply, when you take this option, it is arguably the best all-wheel drive system offered, and because it's proactive. This simple difference transfers power before wheel spin rather than having to wait for the wheels to lose grip before the system kicks in. A subtle but very significant difference. The popular vote was for the Subaru Forester, and we at Motoring agree. When it comes to a small vehicle with all-wheel drive, nobody does it better than Subaru.
So true. Now, there's a couple of segments you may have noticed that are missing this year, one of them being minivans.
Absolutely, and for that I'm going to stick with a past winner, and that would be the Honda Odyssey. Although if you need something a little smaller, you know, the Mazda MPV is worth a look.
And I'll even throw in the Chevy Venture to add to your list. Now, the other segment is pickup trucks, but again, nothing new. But you know, we can't talk about pickup trucks without letting our man in the Quaker State garage, Bill Gardner, have a say. How about it, Bill?
Brad, are you and Graham nice and toasty warm inside doing the Car of the Year show? Here I am freezing out here, and but you know, some of us have got to work for a living. And when it comes to working for a living, many times your right-hand man is your pickup truck, and I'll tell you, I'd rather lose my right arm than this truck. Now, you've seen this truck of mine in many motoring shoots. It's a 92 GM and millions of kilometers on it, but it still runs great. I love this truck, but I'm finding that being a regular cab, I've got to travel light all the time, and that's a bit of a pain in the neck. I'd sure like to have a crew cab or extended cab pickup. Now, this truck of mine in 92 had a 5.7 liter V8 engine, and it made 200 horsepower. And just to show you how much progress is being made on the new trucks, GM gets 200 horsepower out of their 4.3 V6 engine now. And their V8s, their 4.8 and 5.3 engines make 270 and 285 horsepower respectively, and get significantly better fuel mileage than my 92 truck did. Now, when you're talking about pickup trucks, I think I can honestly say this is the last vehicle segment, where the domestics are clearly ahead of the imports as far as I'm concerned, and I think most people would agree with that. I just love the domestic pickups. GM would be my choice if I was buying a brand new pickup, because I like the way they've advanced their engine technology without getting too carried away. Their engines are still pushrod designed, 2 valves per cylinder, and they make fantastic power and fuel economy out of a fairly straightforward engine. Ford's gone overhead cam with their V8s, and they're getting lots of power, but quite a bit more complexity, which can lead to service problems in the future. Chrysler and some of their trucks, they've got an overhead cam V8 4.7, and they've got that new Hemi head 5.7 V8 coming out this year, so they're advancing their technology as well. But I really like these GMs, and this particular one that Brad brought out for me today, the extended cab with quadra-steer and all the options on it, if I can just swallow hard and get over that $53,000 sticker price, just might think about one. Now, if you're buying a new pickup truck, keep a couple of things in mind. A lot of guys are getting really carried away with engines, and as I mentioned just a minute ago, you don't have to have a really big engine anymore to have the power. The small engines, if your usage is light duty, are more than up to the task, and you'll save a lot on fuel economy. Now, in terms of the diesels, a lot of guys are buying diesel because they just think it's cool to have a diesel. I would only recommend you buy a diesel engine if you've got an application where the severity of the usage is so extreme that you're going to wear out or be overtaxed with the gasoline engine, and you're going to be into poor fuel economy, of course, if you're overloading it. That's where a diesel engine really shines. But if you think it's just cool to be driving around in a diesel, as far as I'm concerned, you're wasting a lot of money. Don't overbuy when you buy your pickup truck. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 2003.
Having looked at luxury, it's now time to focus on a subject that's rather dear to my heart, or I wish it were. Money no object, and our upper luxury cars. The latest 7 Series created quite a stir when launched. Not only was the look a marked departure from BMW's norm, it was packed with leading-edge technology, some well received, some not. The engine is quite simply the most advanced in the world. Not only does the design increase horsepower, it manages to reduce fuel consumption and emissions at the same time. On the flip side, the all-encompassing iDrive is just too darn complex for its own good. Pet peeve aside, the rest of the car is the model of sophistication and the reason BMW is held in such high regard. The E-Class is one of the more popular mid-sized luxury sedans. Look at the combination of good old-fashioned craftsmanship and the lengthy list of electronic gadgetry aboard, and it's not difficult to understand why. Depending upon model, it comes with everything from a 4-zone climate control system to brake-by-wire and a sophisticated semi-active suspension system. As a result, the E-Class is very comfortable yet highly responsive to driver input. It's also packed with all things Mercedes-Benz holds near and dear, and so the E-Class fits the luxury bill to a T. When the S-Type R debuted, it was to critical acclaim, and rightly so. A balanced blend of luxury and handling transformed it into an instant success. The lone question was the ultimate power at the driver's disposal. Sure, the original 4-litre V8 was good, but not class-leading. Welcome to the S-Type R, a version that effectively silences any questioning. Bolting a supercharger to the enlarged 4.2-litre V8 delivers a pavement-warping 400 horsepower, 408 pounds-feet of torque, and an adrenaline rush of the first order. Tromp the gas pedal and the R warps its way to 100 kilometers an hour in just 5.6 seconds. This really was a very difficult category. In fact, it was probably the most difficult. The popular vote went to the BMW 7 Series. We crossed it off because of that confounded iDrive that controls everything except the kitchen sink. Mercedes-Benz, well, they always put out a class product. However, our upper-level luxury car of the year goes to the Jaguar S-Type R. It's very difficult to resist leather-lined luxury, especially when it comes with 400 horsepower.
They also showed that handheld or hands-free made very little difference. In other words, it's not a manual dexterity issue. Working a cell phone is really no different than putting a CD in your CD player or smoking a cigarette or using your hand to do anything else. It's a mental...
And now to the small multi-purpose category. Now this may seem like an unusual name, but believe me, all three nominees live up to the reputation. On the one hand, they're small and fun to drive. On the other, well, they're packed full of versatility. Rather than being termed crossovers, the Pontiac Vibe and Toyota Matrix should be called neithers. Simply, this new breed is neither station wagon nor bloated hatchback. Rather, the design combines the best of both in a single package with some overtly sporty overtones. From a driving perspective, the compact dimensions bring city-friendly vehicles with a ton of space. Seats up, you'll find 617 litres of cargo space. Dropping them flat bumps that number to a wagon-like 1506. Both also offer a choice of 2 or all-wheel drive models, as well as mild and sporty engines. When equipped with the all-wheel drive system, performance tends to take a backseat to traction. However, a severe test proved the value of driving all the wheels and only when needed. If you want something a little hotter, take the 180 horsepower engine that started life in Toyota's highly respected Celica. Now, if the Vibe and Matrix sound the same, you're back to that neither thing. You're neither right nor you're wrong. The Outlander is yet another new name from Mitsubishi, itself a recent addition to the Canadian scene. Outlander mirrors the design intent of the Matrix and Vibe, but manages to put its own spin on things. First, the taller roofline says more mini SUV than the other two cars in this category. It is also less sporty, bringing a rather anemic 120 horsepower to the dance. Now, if the Outlander does turn your crank, wait for the 03 model, as it gets a larger, more powerful engine to help the motivation. When so equipped, the Outlander, with its roomy and flexible interior, good looks and comfortable ride, is going to be worth a second look.
Well, as you can see, Motoring viewers selected the Toyota Matrix, as did we. But you know, Graham, we did receive some email from some of our viewers who felt it was maybe unfair to pit the Matrix against the Vibe because essentially they're the same vehicles.
Well, that's right, Brad. They are very similar in terms of their technical execution. However, when it comes to style, and more importantly, the manner in which they're packaged, they are very different vehicles, and that was what attracted me to the Matrix more than the Vibe. But you must never lose sight of the fact either that because of their similarities, for every person that chooses a Matrix, that's one lost Vibe sale. Anyway, now on to our category that's comprised of the ultimate boonie bashers, or to give the category its formal name, our best new full-size SUV of the year. The Ford Expedition brings a long list of improvements over the original truck. Leading the list is a better four-wheel drive system, a stronger chassis with new independent rear suspension, and an innovative third-row seat design that powers flat into the floor. Ford's personal safety system and a safety canopy are also in place. The personal safety system marries a number of functions into a single program that determines the best manner in which to deploy the front or side airbags, while the safety canopy is designed to protect the occupants in the event of a rollover. It's large and it's outrageous, meaning the new Hummer H2 is everything it should be. A strong 6-litre engine, an equally strong chassis and a strong four-wheel drive system back up the brawny looks. The net result is a vehicle that is as capable as the original Hummer, but without its considerable drawbacks. You now ride with a degree of civility. You can actually hear your passengers talking, and all the creature comfort items are in place. In short, if the backwoods beckon, there's little to stop that urge. If you are what you drive, the H2 makes you an interesting extrovert. Where the original Range Rover was an example of all things wrong with an SUV, the latest model is the opposite, righting all the wrongs. The look is sophisticated and the interior as flexible and classy as anything offered. It also enjoys much better power from its 4.4-litre 282 horsepower engine, as well as a host of electronic driver aids. In short, it remains one of the world's finest off-road vehicles. The irony in all of this is, of course, it is one of the least likely vehicles to be used for boonie bashing. Thankfully, its on-road repertoire is just as good. This was another easy category. After all, who could vote against the Hummer H2? It really does everything very well, and it's outrageous to boot. If you want to get noticed, that's the right vehicle to be in, and so it becomes our best full-size SUV for 2003.
Our Midas tip of the week concerns a couple of tricks that I consider mandatory for surviving a Canadian winter. First of all, make sure that your vehicle has got a good set of rubber floor mats. If your vehicle came with carpeted floor mats or no mats at all, make sure you've got a good set of rubber mats, because they will collect that salty water that runs off your boots in the wintertime and prevent it from soaking into the carpet and then into the floor pan and corroding your floor. Now, another thing that I like to do in the wintertime before I swing my feet inside the vehicle is clap my boots together to get rid of the slush, and that'll minimize the amount of water that's going to get into that mat and then into the floor. Another thing that I like to do as well is take my wiper arms and pull them up before I park the vehicle for the night. Perfect example was last night. We had a pretty severe storm. Started out with freezing rain and then about 4 or 5 inches of snow on top of that as the night progressed. Before I went to bed, I pulled the wiper arms up off the windshield, and many late model vehicles are configured in a fashion that you can lift the wiper arms up off the windshield. Now, when you get freezing rain, you know what happens to those wiper blades. They're almost cemented to that windshield, and you can damage them trying to break them loose with your ice scraper. If you pull the wiper arms up, it makes it much easier to clear the snow off, and you won't have to chisel those wiper blades off the windshield and run the risk of damaging them. That's your Midas tip of the week.
We're back at the Docks Entertainment Center in downtown Toronto, and in just a couple of minutes, Lisa and Ruby will be pulling the wraps off our overall Car of the Year for 2003. But first, as we all know, each year, Jim Kenzie likes to have his say on the eventual Car of the Year.
I've been on the show every year except the very first year, and you'd think by now they'd give me a vote in their Car of the Year. It would save them the embarrassment of being wrong year after year after year. I mean, what are they, 2 and 12 lifetime to date? Now, I don't know which one they've chosen, but I can tell by the shape of the drape on that cloth, they've got it wrong again. The obvious Car of the Year, well, obvious to everybody except my colleagues here on Motoring and also my colleagues in the Automobile Journalists Association of Canada, it's not only the best sedan to ever come out of Japan, it's the best car to ever come out of Japan. It's got looks, it's got style, it's got features, it's got quality, it's got performance and handling, ride, it's got value for money, and it's even got that rarest of commodities for Japanese cars. It's got character, it's got soul. It's as plain as, well, maybe not as plain as the nose on my face. The Car of the Year for 2003, the Infiniti G35.
Just hang on to your horses there, Jim. Before we get to the real Car of the Year, it's time to look at our category winners. And now to the purpose of this whole show. our car of the year for 2003. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present the Mazda 6. This car really does set a very high standard in the family sedan category. It is the benchmark in terms of handling, and whilst it's not quite as powerful as the Accord, it will never let you down. This car has got it all, and it really is the home run that Mazda have needed for such a long time.
Well, Graham, let's now have a look to see who our viewers selected as Car of the Year. In a late surge, the PT Cruiser overtook the 350Z, followed by the G35. Now, Lisa is standing by with a hat containing the names of viewers who also selected the Mazda 6. So, Graham, let's make the selection.
Okay, Ruby, if you'd do the honors. Perfect. Thank you very much. And our winner is Graham Jardin from Oakville, Ontario. Now, Graham picked the Mazda 6 based upon a 1,000-kilometer test drive in Britain. He says Mazda has a winner on their hands, and I think I'm inclined to agree.
Well, congratulations to Graham Jardine. And Graham, you'll be receiving some goodies from us here on Motoring, as well as from our sponsors, Quaker State and Midas. But you know, the big prize, of course, is a day at the 2003 AJAC Test Fest, where all the keys will be available to you to drive the 2004 cars and trucks that will be entered in that competition. Well, that's it for this week. Before we go, we want to thank everybody here at the docks for their help. And of course, we want to thank you, our viewers, many who have been watching us grow old here on TSN since 1988. Well, that's it for now. We'll be back next week as we continue to bring you more stories about cars and the people who drive and vote on them.
TSN's Motoring 2003 has been brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil, oils fine-tuned for different engines, and Midas, Total Car Care. We do that.